Prepare yourselves. It's Big News Wednesday. Indeed, but it is not a JR Wednesday. Jared Jackson, of course, was on the show on Monday, did a little flippity flop with Francesca Fiorentini, host of the Bitchuation Room. Francesca, how's it going?
Good. I was so grateful to JR, even though it's a sad week generally for some TYT programming. I'm still here, so thanks for having me on Wednesday.
Hi, you are still here. Apparently, management did not get my letter, or they did not find it persuasive. Anyway, very glad to have you here. I'm kidding, you're here and you're fresh off the Bitchuation Room, which happened yesterday. How did that go?
Oh, it was very good. Yeah, we had comedian Megan Gailey on, who's hilarious, and we had journalist Bryce Covert. We talked about a year after Roe v. Wade fell, what's going on. And also we got into the pickleball discourse to switch it up a bit. I don't know if you guys have been following, but pickleball apparently.
It's everywhere, the headlines.
Very polemic, very divisive.
Oh my God, I can't keep up with everything. I'll have to Google it, I suppose, but very glad to have you here. Really fast, so I know that the Bitchuation Room is something that people can watch. They can watch the stream and everything, but there is some extra that if they wanna watch, they can.
Yeah.
What would they have to do to see the extra Bitchuation Room that not everybody can see?
Yeah, the uncensored Francesca happens on Fridays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern for our bonus bish. And if you wanna get that on all our previous bonus bishes, and if you wanna support the show, patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Thank you, John, for the setup there.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you for being here. Very excited to have you here. By the way, just because I know there's a lot of concern or anxiety or misinformation going around, this is just, they switched for this week, JR and Francesca. JR is still gonna be on JR Wednesdays. There's no change that's happening to that. The watch list will continue, although not as a live show. He will still be releasing content and all that. So anyway, we got a lot that we're gonna be talking about through the course of this show. And the aftermath in particular, oh dear God, do we have some fun stuff. We're gonna be jumping around the world. Meanwhile, we've got Barbie bigotry from AI. That's gonna be a lot of fun. And have the quiet quitters quit quiet quitting. We're gonna have a little debate, see if we can figure it out. And along the way, please hit the like button, share the stream if you're on a platform that allows for that. And if you wanna reach out to us, you can in a variety of different ways and we'll respond and it'll be awesome. We're gonna have a little conversation. With all that said, Francesca, are you ready to do this thing?
Indeed.
Okay, well, buckle yourself up because we've got more to get through in this first hour than we normally do, and we're gonna do our best, starting with this. The Justice Department threw an absolute bombshell into Donald Trump's continuing legal troubles, specifically with E. Jean Carroll. The rest of all of those different investigations continue. But they have now announced that the statements that he has made about E. Jean Carroll, particularly in 2019, they no longer consider them to have been delivered in his official capacity as president. And this is a reversal from their prior position that gives new momentum to this ongoing legal trouble for the president. Now, for many people, they might think that the original position of the DOJ made no sense, but here is what their initial position was. They had previously said that first during the Trump administration and later under President Biden, that Mr. Trump was acting in his official capacity when he called Ms. Carroll a liar and denied her accusation that he raped her nearly 30 years ago in a Manhattan department store dressing room. But they now say that new evidence has surfaced since he left office, including in the recent civil trial in which a Manhattan jury found Mr. Trump liable for sexually assaulting Ms. Carroll decades ago. Now that's already, that part of the investigation trial process is done. He owes her $5 million, although we will see if that number goes up. But here's the information that they seem to be talking about. The fresh set of facts suggests, quote, that Mr. Trump was motivated by a personal grievance stemming from events that occurred many years prior to Mr. Trump's presidency. Although the statements themselves were made in a work context, the allegations that prompted the statements related to a purely personal incident, an alleged sexual assault that occurred decades prior to Mr. Trump's presidency. Now, to win over people with the idea that Donald Trump might have been motivated by a personal grievance is gonna take some work because he really doesn't seem like the sort of person that would operate in that way.
No.
But anyway, he is not shielded now. That had been sort of, I guess, one of the panic buttons lurking in the background, the idea that the DOJ might stay out of this or might actually proactively help him. Apparently that is not gonna happen, Francesca.
I mean, add it to the pile. throw it on the pile. Like, okay, sure, good. I mean, look, if nothing else, I think it shows that, especially after losing this case, I mean, not completely, not found guilty on every single charge, but sexual abuse he was found guilty of. Again, this is the supposed leader of a cult who's going to free us of all sexual abusers, right. But like, it shows that at least the DOJ is taking this seriously, and they're not going to kind of parse the crimes when it comes to Donald Trump, who is still a political figure, who is still a potential menace. And to me, honestly, as a woman, and for many people out there who are survivors, it's like, yeah, this is a serious crime that he was convicted of, and he keeps on running his mouth when it comes to the defamation stuff. He keeps on putting her in harm's way, and so, yeah, I'm glad that there could be further investigation into this. Again, we've seen that Donald Trump's crimes, it's not that he commits the crime, it's that he continues, whether it's refusing to give over classified information, documents that he has, whether it's the defamation, it's like he just layers them on, right? It's a 7-layer dip of crime.
Yeah. It's disgusting. I would say my metaphor would be slightly more rancid. 7-layer dip that's been like sitting in the back alley behind the restaurant where it's normally served.
Yeah.
And even rats and the occasional possum are turning their nose up to it at this point because of the sheer amount of rot. Well, get ready for some more rot because, and I will remind you, all of this trial stuff is not fundamentally about the originating crime. It's about the constant, unending defamation that he has already now owes her millions of dollars for. And so why not, if we're adding things to the pile, let's add some more defamation to that pile. Donald Trump is responding to the DOJ changing their position on whether he should have some form of immunity when it comes to writer E. Jean Carroll's defamation case against him. And here is what he said on True Social, bleated, what I would imagine will someday serve as evidence in one of these trials. The DOJ will not defend me in the Eugene Carroll civil case, which is all part of a political witch hunt, lawyered up by a political operative who I just beat in another case, financed by a big political funder, and judged by a Clinton appointee who truly hates Trump. The statements that I made about Carroll are all true. I didn't capital R rape her. I won that at trial. Wait a second, that's the trial where they found that you sexually abused her, right? Oh, interesting. Why are you leaving that part out? That's the money part, Trumpy. Anyway, and other than for this case, I have no idea who she is, what she looks like, or anything about her. Again, he is literally repeating the defamatory statements that he has said before, but he's gonna go beyond just that. He calls it a miscarriage of justice and a total capital S scam. The trial was very unfair. Here's the only reason I wanna read this bleat. It's the final sentence. My lawyers, due to their respect for the office of the president and the incredulity of the case, did not want me to testify or even be at the trial. Oh, he totally wanted to be. He totally wanted to testify and be there and all that, but they were just like, no, sir, think of the office, sir. And they had tears in their eyes, these great big burly lawyers of his. But anyway, I do want to get to the final defamation. The net result of this horrible injustice, where a completely unknown to me woman made up a ridiculous story, wrote it in a book to increase publicity and sales. I correctly disputed the story and got sued for defamation. Blah, 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 $5 million fake rape claim. We are strongly appealing. So he is now very specifically defaming her, saying that not only has she made up all the stuff that a trial has already resulted in them saying she did not make up, or there's no reason to believe it. But he's now saying she did it for financial gain. She is lying about her sexual trauma to make money off of a book. If he wasn't already being sued, Francesca, I feel like this would be enough. I would call my legal team.
Yeah, I mean, again, he just keeps on doing it. He and his legal team, I don't know, like who's left. Again, when Giuliani has jumped the ship, there's not many people left helping him or advising him, but he keeps on getting away with it. So again, I'm glad the DOJ is saying this is not off limits in terms of like bringing new charges against him, because he keeps on making it worse. Take the L, buddy, take the L. But shut up about it. If you don't want to take the L, or you don't want to say, like, there's other ways, truly. There's other ways to still somehow defend your innocence, even though we know he's completely guilty of more than just sexual abuse, and not still get into the same muck that cost you $5 million, which we'll see if he even pays.
Yeah, like in theory, anyone can be accused of rape. Not in the way that the right says it, where they say that to imply that all rape accusations are false. That's absolutely ridiculous. In theory, anyone could be, and if they were, they would undoubtedly want to defend themselves. And they would want to strongly claim that they have never done anything like that, would never do anything like that. But I think most people would draw the line right around there. They wouldn't feel the need to then say, well, obviously I would never rape this person because she's not my type. Like they wouldn't feel like if the accusation is that they went to violent levels of misogyny, that they then need to prove that they are in fact wildly misogynistic. Most people would not choose to go down that road. That's of course the road that Donald Trump dwells in. Ron DeSantis is going to be doing his upcoming campaigning from firmly underneath the wheels of a bus, specifically the Murdoch bus that they are throwing him under because they apparently are not feeling his candidacy anymore. And you can see that on the way that he's being treated on Fox News, as well as print media controlled by this incredibly wealthy and influential conservative family. So it's just examples of how the tenor of the way they treat Ron DeSantis has changed over the past few weeks. You have him facing noticeably tougher questions, which we have covered on the show in interviews with two Fox News hosts, Will Cain and Maria Bartiromo, who pressed him on his anemic poll numbers and early campaign struggles. A recent editorial in the Wall Street Journal criticized a tough immigration bill that Mr. DeSantis signed into law in May. And of course, they chose to run that. There's a million op-eds they could have chosen to run. They did that one. And the New York Post, which hailed the governor as the future on its front page last year, has covered his lagging poll numbers, as well as the backlash to a video his campaign shared that was condemned as homophobic, which we have, of course, also covered a few times on the show. So that's sort of like, you would expect to see this sort of thing if the Murdochs had decided, you know what, I don't think this is a guy, he doesn't have the juice, he's not gonna take down Trump. But they're also very personally making clear their frustrations with Ron DeSantis. So he is voicing his doubts, Rupert Murdoch specifically, in private discussions and calls. There were like 6 different sources for this reporting, by the way. At times wondering if a DeSantis, quote, comeback is possible at this point, and I understand their concerns. The concerns are more specific too, though. So Murdoch has privately winced at DeSantis's nonstop cultural grievance strategy, arguing that it's being executed sloppily. That's like my 10th biggest issue with it. I think the fact that it's wildly immoral and dangerous and is getting people killed is worse, but sure, it's also sloppy. Murdoch's complaints lately have centered on how he feels DeSantis often seems too awkward in his public presentation and in his attempts to connect with the American voter. I think that's an understatement. One Fox insider, by the way, said the Murdochs are transactional and can smell a loser a mile away. That smell, rotten chocolate pudding. Francesca, what do you think?
I mean, I'm just like, it's funny to me. It's yeah, man. Yeah, you bet on the wrong guy, but like, and again, this is an eternal debate of would we prefer a DeSantis? I am of the camp that says I am actually not more scared of Ron DeSantis, and I think his campaign is proof of that. The guy is deflating. Quicker than a Chinese spy balloon. I don't know, whatever. Quicker than I can't say that. I'm topical from 2 months ago. But yeah, look, here's what I will say though. Murdoch, if you really wanted to inflate a dude, you know how to do it. If you really wanted to give him some like unfettered airtime, you could easily do that. So to me, it says that the Murdochs wanted to support DeSantis, but they didn't really want to go all in. Because if they wanted to go all in, endless town halls, endless appearances, endless sort of like, whatever, exposés about his wife and his whole family and how great they are. They could prop him up if they wanted to, but they don't really want to, it seems. It seems like they don't want to give him that much. It's like, okay, well, look, if he's already doing well, we'll jump on board and we low key support him. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious, John, how are they gonna manage this walking into the 2024 election without, having burned Trump? I mean, are they gonna just come back to the Trump trough like everybody else will?
Well, look, I think that your point about them not wanting to go all in definitely indicates a concern that they might have to do that. You'd go all in on someone if you knew that you weren't gonna have to go with Trump, or if you weren't worried about going against Trump. They are still obviously worried about that. I think that the Murdochs are worried about that because they genuinely don't want Trump as president in comparison to other right wingers. But also they think, I guess, that it's bad for Fox News in theory. By the way, in terms of how they could go all in, they could just go all in covering Ron DeSantis's insane culture wars. His xenophobic genocidal campaign against LGBTQ people. They could do that. Some of their hosts do. It doesn't seem like that, but it doesn't seem like that's what the Murdochs ideally want to do. I think they are really immorally tolerant of that sort of thing, but it's not their bag, baby, I guess is how I'd say, in comparison to like Jesse Waters is totally happy to do a Gutfeld and all that. But they do have an answer, by the way, to your question, which was not a rhetorical question. I went off on rhetorical questions in my pre-show. I hate them and they need to end. But anyway, the answer is apparently Glenn Youngkin. Mr. Murdoch privately has been telling people that he still wants the Virginia governor to enter the race. And the thing is, like, Glenn Youngkin won in a state that was more purple than some of these others, I guess, certainly Florida right now. Yep. He is seen as more reasonable, even though I will remind you, he has been perfectly happy to do not only just the right-wing anti-worker stuff and all that, but also a good amount of this culture war stuff too. But he's also, like, am I wrong? Is he one of the most boring human beings living in this country? Like, could he be? Is he not Jeb? Are we sure that he's not Jeb actually?
Yeah, he
like
might
Jeb
just be
with
Jeb.
a Mid-Journey mask.
Yeah, you just like rearrange the face a little bit. I mean, most politicians are Mr. Potato Heads. You just like change out the eyebrows, and it's like that's pretty much the same. Old white guy. I don't think Youngkin's a bad choice necessarily, but again, I haven't really seen him speak very much. So you might be very right that there's a reason we haven't seen anything from him. I guess I just think it is. Look, you're Fox News. What do you think's gonna sell harder? A sort of middling Republican who doesn't make it into the White House, or even makes it into the White House, another 4 years of Trump, or 4 years of DeSantis where you have to pretend that everything's coming up, roses or whatever, or 4 more years of Biden where you can just hit him and hit him and hit him and be the beleaguered opposition and talk about how everyone's coming for your, whatever, your jobs, your money, your home, your all that. You can talk about crime and just blame everything on Biden. Again, something he inherited from Donald Trump. Like, it's actually more profitable to be in said opposition. I mean, we saw, for better or worse, the proliferation of a lot of liberal outlets, podcasts, media, whatnot, when Trump came into power. We see sort of that cold, calculated play of like, I'd rather lose and then fundraise off of the opposition and fundraise off of this loss.
Yeah, 100%. I will throw out my probably really bad suggestion to the Murdochs, which is, if you're gonna back someone as an alternative to Trump, you obviously want them to be super pro-business. That's all you really care about, let's be clear. But you also need them to have a chance of taking down Trump. So why not back Chris Christie? I'm not saying he has a good chance of taking him down, but at least he'll try. He'll throw some punches. Is Glenn Youngkin really gonna criticize Trump? I don't know that he has up to this point. I'm pretty sure he was interviewed. Was it about the classified documents or something? And he was tripping over himself to not criticize Trump. It's the same weak sauce, milquetoast strategy that a lot of these other Republicans are using. Why would you expect that in the case of Glenn Youngkin, it would work?
It's the line they're trying to walk, and I think you're absolutely right. Glenn Youngkin's like his saving grace is that he hasn't come down hard on one side or another. Was the election rigged or not? Does he believe Trump should be president or not? And he's just sort of rid the line and flown under the radar. And if he runs for president, he will have to clarify and ergo, alienate that base.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, as we go to our first break, I will let you know that in a recent morning consult poll, DeSantis was back down to 17%, the lowest that he has ever registered on their polls. So not only is he not making up ground, but he's losing it from a few months ago. Women protested inside of Iowa's Senate building as a controversial abortion ban law was being debated. They chanted, among other things, "We're not your breeders," which is a powerful message. And unfortunately, they found out that apparently, according to the Republicans in Iowa, yes, they are, because that passed. That effective abortion ban has passed. Now, the game that we're supposed to play here is that it's not a ban. It's a 6-week restriction. It's a 6-week limitation. I'm done playing that game. It's a ban. It's a ban with a little bit of like crepe paper over it to obscure what it actually is. They chose 6 weeks because they believe that that will ban nearly 100% of all abortions. Many women and people who can get pregnant obviously won't even know at that point that they are. It's designed to make it, particularly for people without the resources to get out of the state or to get to a place to actually do it, to possibly stay for 2 days, to get off of work. It's a ban, that's what it is. I'm not in the doing Republican PR business. In Iowa, effectively, abortion has now been banned with some very minor loopholes that aren't worth the paper they're printed on. For example, all are banned at the first sign of cardiac activity. That is a thing that they throw into these as if there is some sort of obvious moral weight to that is never actually defined by them. You're just supposed to believe that that means something significant and then just allow them to strip away your rights. Okay. Anyway, there are some exceptions for cases of rape or incest. It will allow for abortions up until 20 weeks of pregnancy, only under certain conditions of medical emergency. Abortions in the state were previously allowed up to 20 weeks. It was already very restrictive. And so now you have these loopholes. So up to 20 weeks, certain types of medical emergencies. Sorry, if a doctor is willing to potentially be prosecuted and will actually go along with it. We already know in many states that have these sorts of loopholes, they don't. They're terrified of being sued into existence or possibly locked up, so it's not actually worth a damn. And after 20 weeks, even if they believe that you're likely to die, they won't do anything about it. And then of course, there's the exceptions for cases of rape or incest, as if that's some sort of automatic thing. Understand in practice how that works. Who you will have to convince, what evidence you will have to present, the massive trauma on top of trauma that desperately trying to fit through that loophole will foist on top of you. That's what they have done. That's the consideration that they've given to people who can get pregnant in that state.
Absolutely.
Francesca, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's completely bad faith, and we know that. And every Republican should be asked about those loopholes in terms of rape and incest and how they would advise, let's say, a minor, right? If it's incest, likely a minor, to go about proving their case. How would they get to the courthouse to actually prove that case? Whose credit card would they use for the Uber to get to the court? Like how, and this is again, the danger with this also bizarre obsession with parental rights, right? Is the idea that all parents are perfect and wonderful and great. And no, you literally have this carve out around incest, and the person would have to go through their very abuser to even prove that. It means nothing, obviously. But it actually, what it means in practice is that women are going to die. Women who don't want to be parents, women who do want to be parents will die. And all people who can get pregnant will die, all right? I have a friend who recently had a miscarriage, right? There was not a heartbeat, but a pulsing of electrons of cells, right? Which in Republicans' book, few cells, that's considered a heartbeat, right? Well, she wanted to be a mom, she had a miscarriage, and according to Iowa and so many red states, she would have to bleed out in her car and wait until she was literally like on death's door and her vitals were tanking before she could get the necessary procedure, a D&E, to help her actually pass that cluster of cells without dying. Like straight up, the trauma that you are putting people through is just unimaginable. And I I want everyone to understand, whether you can get pregnant, whether you can't get pregnant, just how terrible it is, just how much your body already goes through in pregnancy alone, I could tell you. But then on a pregnancy that you don't even want, or on a pregnancy that you want, but my God, how sad for you that you are having this miscarriage and the state says that you cannot have that miscarriage in dignity. It's a human rights abuse. I mean, straight up, I'm like, if we hadn't decimated the role of the United Nations, who do we go to, people?
Exactly.
Can somebody coup our nation? Can we do to Afghanistan? Like, can we be done what we did to Afghanistan be done to us to quote unquote save the women?
Yeah, I really have come to hate the fact that they can fool some people with these like loopholes or whatever. Yeah. It doesn't work for most people, by the way. Most people hate this. I'm gonna give you the poll results in just a sec. But by the way, I did have an idea though. So it's their strongly held religious belief that this is what the law should be or whatever. Or isn't it weird how it's always the strongly held religious belief is that it should be as restrictive as the Supreme Court will allow it to be at that point, and then as soon as it can be more restrictive, it will be. It's weird how their strongly held religious belief changes. Well, how about this? Okay, we will have an opening where if there's incest or rape, then there's an exception for that. And the qualification for that will be your strongly held belief. And that's it. You don't have to tell anyone. You just have to have the strongly held belief in your head. That has been elevated by the Supreme Court to being more important than moral considerations or precedent or law. So let's do that in this case. If you believe just to yourself, you don't have to say it, you don't have to write it down, you don't have to file any paperwork. If you believe that that's what it is, then there's an exception. At least be consistent in that way. Speaking of consistency, Governor Kim Reynolds, who I hear from Donald Trump is just the worst, said the Iowa Supreme Court questioned whether this legislature would pass the same law they did in 2018. In 2019, a law like this was knocked down. I have an idea of how the Supreme Court will adjudicate it now. And today they have a clear answer. The voices of Iowans and their democratically elected representatives cannot be ignored any longer, and justice for the unborn should not be delayed. That's nonsense that implies that you care about people's life. The voices of Iowans. Oh, I don't live in Iowa. It's possible it's more right wing than I thought. I guess this is just her doing what they have been demanding. They've been calling out for it, and never will the government listen to them. 61% of Iowa adults say abortion should be legal in all or most cases. Only 35% say that it should be illegal in most or all cases. More than 2/3 of Iowa women, 70%, say it should be legal in most or all cases. Which voices exactly, Kim Reynolds? Again, she doesn't care. She didn't look because she doesn't care. She's not interested in what those people believe. She thinks she needs to deliver this so she could be the VP someday or the president or whatever. And if a bunch of people have to bleed to death along the way, that is a cost that Kim Reynolds is willing to have them pay for her political aspirations.
Absolutely.
Final thoughts.
Kim Reynolds and her family and everyone else in power, they have the ticket out, which is money, right? Yep. You can afford a flight to a different state to get an abortion. You can afford the actual costs of the procedure. You can afford to pay, let's say, hey, a family doctor to come to your home and give you that procedure in discretion and with lots of care. Like, again, and this is, I think, what we need to remember. It's John, I think it's jumped the shark on the religion thing. Like, it's the year 2023, man. Nobody's buying that it's about religion. It's not about their morally held beliefs, because what is happening around this country is deeply amoral, right? It is deeply amoral to require children to carry babies to term. I don't care what the circumstance is, right? All of these things are deeply immoral. It's about power. And now the mask is off. The rich say, there are different rules that apply to me than apply to you. The powerful say there are different rules that I live by than that you have to live by, right? That's why you have Peter Thiel, who funds anti-gay causes even though he himself is gay. And Kim Reynolds, who she's a woman, ostensibly has a uterus. Like, no, it doesn't matter. She's got a golden clad uterus. She can do whatever she wants with that thing, but yours, no, that's hers. That belongs to the state.
Yeah, no, like you said, those with money are always gonna be able to go to a place that has the laws that they pretend to be opposed to. they're always going to be safe. It's regular people that are going to suffer. Regular people are going to die. Okay, let's turn to an update on a very different sort of news. The WGA writer's strike has finished its 71st day, and the union representing a lot of Hollywood actors is just 30 hours away from possible labor action of its own. Now, one would hope that the combination of those two would be a very strong force to get the big studios and others to the bargaining table. But according to reporting at Deadline, that is not the case. They have a different strategy, and it is about as cruel and heartless as you can possibly imagine. They're acting like villains from one of the movies that they might actually put out. I'm gonna give you the details. So, receiving positive feedback from Wall Street since the WGA went on strike back on the 2nd of May, Warner Brothers Discovery, Apple, Netflix, Amazon, Disney, Paramount, and others have become determined to, quote, break the WGA. To do so, the studios and the AMPTP believe that by October, most writers will be running out of money after 5 months on the picket lines and no work. A studio executive told Deadline, quote, "The end game is to allow things to drag on until union members start losing their apartments and losing their houses." Acknowledging the cold as ice approach, several other sources reiterated the statement. One insider called it a cruel but necessary evil. Oh, it's cruel and it's evil, but it's necessary that we literally bankrupt these people who made all of our high salaries and the success of our companies, the profits possible. They need to suffer. It's a necessary evil. And that they're being clear about that. They don't care about the writers being on strike. They don't fear the actors going on strike. They're willing to break these people financially. Francesca, what do you think?
I mean, it's wild how craven they are. And that is why I think writers have been saying this is existential, because they know this is a showdown better than anything that you could script on any of the streaming platforms. This is truly a massive fight. And so, look, they knew that this could be a massive fight. And they knew. I mean, look, we're here in Los Angeles, and it seems very much so. The AMPTP has not come to the table with a counter offer. They won't even come to the table. That tells you they're being cavalier. They think they can starve the writers as if they're not already starving, right? And they're being, they're being blasé about it because that's what they want to happen, and they do not want to give the WGA an inch, because why? Because they don't want to give the actors an inch. And if they don't want to give the actors an inch, they don't want to give the directors an inch. Although I know they have a different contract that maybe is looking better. They don't want to give IATSE, all the crew. They don't want to give those folks an inch who negotiated a contract last year. So they feel somehow that it's existential for the CEOs. Because Zaslav needs to defend his third or fourth home and the entire staff that runs those places, right? Otherwise, that's existential, So it's an effing standoff, y'all. And I would encourage people who watch these shows. There's a role fans can play, whether it's on social media, whether it's getting to the picket line, whether it's donating, whether it's letting folks know, it's tweeting at them. We all know how sensitive executives are about social media. They look at social media, they think it's real. They're like, oh my God, what should we do? So barrage these MFers. I'm serious. If you like a show, if it's put on hold because of everything, we all have a role to play, even if you're not a writer.
Yeah. 100%. I understand obviously that they have to be off, but I feel like there are some platforms that in theory could be rallying people around this that we don't have. Obviously, like the late night shows have been off now for a couple months and will remain off. But I feel like that could be a strong way that you could be, getting people to think about this. I mean, maybe they can do it independently or whatever. Like the studios don't value the writers. I've always had an issue with how little we care about writers. I've always found it weird at the Oscars that I love actors and I love directors. They're great. But nobody even gives a damn about the people who wrote the stuff that could then be directed or acted out. And that's always seemed weird to me. TV, movies are, in a lot of cases, not always, objectively better than maybe they have ever been. And for a lot of us, that has been one of the things that has helped us weather a really difficult time. The studios are wagering that increase in quality creating this golden age of entertainment doesn't actually matter. And you guys are too stupid to know the difference. And so when they start cranking out stuff that ChatGPT wrote, you won't notice that it's not, insert your favorite show or whatever, Game of Thrones before the last couple of seasons, or I'm really enjoying Yellow Jackets right now, or whatever. They're assuming, we can just crank out whatever we want. We won't have to actually pay anyone for it. We certainly won't have to give them residuals. I mean, why, if an episode is so good that people want to watch it 10 years later, should they earn anything for that? It's insane. I wish for little else than that these studios get woken up to how enraged people will be, but the rage has to actually be there. Yeah, I really do wonder about that.
Yeah, and I definitely think that actors need to go on strike. I mean, this is pivotal. If the actors, they have voted to strike, right? And they need to actually do it. They're the ones with they're not gonna be out of their apartments. They've got a lot more money. They can last a lot longer, and they can also support some of those writers who aren't making as much money. But this is existential for them as well. Because don't think that, it's not gonna like the ants are eating their way up the totem pole, ants being, corporate greed. So yeah. We shall see, it's a rough time in Hollywood, y'all. And don't think for a second that these streamers are not making hand over fist money. They are raking it in more so than ever before, thanks to the writers.
There's never enough time to read all the comments. Okay, we've got two awesome stories to talk about. Not awesome as in positive or leading to optimism or anything, but interesting. And we're gonna talk about them and do what we can. Let's start with this. We all knew it was coming. A Michigan hair salon owner has posted on Facebook announcing that she would not be providing services to, according to her, anyone who does not identify as a man or a woman, and it somehow gets worse and worse from there. So here is Studio 8 Hair Lab, education and beauty supply. I think they're forgetting the education part, but anyway, if a human, they say, identifies as anything other than a man or woman, please seek services at a local pet groomer. You are not welcome at this salon, period. Should you request to have a particular pronoun used, please note that we may simply refer to you as hey you, regardless of a bill. They appear to believe that some sort of bill was passed mandating that if you misgender someone, you will suffer legal consequences. That doesn't exist. I guess that will be news for the 4chan board that she was on or whatever. But anyway, this is America, free speech. This small business has the right to refuse services. We are not bound to any oaths as realtors are regarding discrimination. Simply stating that does not make it true, by the way, as she's going to discover. My recent airport experience validates this. I don't know what that's a reference to. I imagine she, for briefly 5, 10, 15 minutes, made everyone around her in an airport and or airplane really, really uncomfortable. But anyway, the specific claims here are, if you identify as anything other than a man or woman, I'm not gonna serve you. So that is like a dumb person's attempt to be transphobic, not seeming to understand that people do identify as men and women. You may not agree with that identification, but that doesn't make it not true. And also, it wants you to go to a local pet groomer. I thought you guys were against people pretending to be animals or whatever. Now you're actively encouraging it. None of this makes any sense. This person's mind is absolute mush, a combination of right-wing propaganda and xenophobia against members of the LGBTQ+ community, as well as just insane conspiracy theories about non-laws being not passed. Anyway, you legally can't do this. At least that's what I think. With the Supreme Court now finding some sort of protection for homophobia in the Constitution, maybe we'll find out that you can do the stuff that Studio 8 Hair Lab is trying to do. Francesca, what do you think?
Yeah, that is exactly right. That because of that Supreme Court ruling, suddenly there is the right to discriminate. And that has been established after the civil rights movement, that there was no right in the Constitution to discriminate. In fact, that's the very purpose of the Constitution, is equal protection under the law. And religious exemptions do not qualify. And again, oh God, don't get me started on whatever religion you think that you are following, that is yep, it's my loving God that tells me to tell you that you're an animal, you're a dog, and you should go to a groomer. So No, and yeah, I love how this person clearly doesn't understand. Like, are they just against non-binary people and like people who use they pronouns? Tight, okay, cool.
They don't seem to understand what it is that they're against. They don't know. So she has deleted the post. I'm gonna give you more of what Christine Geiger has said. Continue to defend her message, making additional comments on Facebook, including, I have no issues with LGB. It's the TQ plus that I'm not going to support.
Oh, I was about to make this joke. This is literally what she said.
That's what she said. What's your problem with the TQ plus? Do you, like, Christine, can you even define what the TQ plus is? Do you know? Do you care? This stance was taken to ensure that clients have the best experience, and I am admitting, some clients, I guess, the clients that you find acceptable, I suppose, can have the best experience. And I'm admitting that since I am not willing to play the pronoun game or cater to requests outside of what I perceive as normal, this probably isn't the best option for that type of client. This is a free country, and I am not a slave to any narrative. You are willingly following insane right-wing narratives. Can we be clear about that? Conservatives need to acclimate these woke individuals to their new reality. No, but like, there are like 7 contradictions in that one sentence alone. Obviously, we're not gonna be able to get through to this person. They were lost a long time ago. It's insane that you can't just do people's hair. Why are you concerned about people's pronouns? When I come in to get a haircut, you don't need to ask me for my pronouns. You honestly don't need to talk to me really at all. I'm here for a service that you are some sort of expert in. That's why I'm paying you to do it. That's really as far as the relationship should go, I think, for most people. Why is that not good enough for you? Why do you feel the need to inject politics into something as basic as like a dye job? Francesca.
First of all, dye jobs are not basic. I just want to state that for the record. And it is very good, very hard to find a good stylist. Mine's on maternity leave.
I'm not doubting that. I'm not
It's a
doubting
whole thing.
Yeah.
But I will say that, look, Christine, I hope this brings you joy. And I hope it brings you economic prosperity. Oh, I hope it brings you healthcare. I hope it, stops the climate from rapidly warming and the sea level rise from, flooding your home or threatening it with fires. I hope that, this means that, the contaminants in the air and our water and our food supply will go away. I hope all of those things for you. Just if you just can convince and get trans people not in your salon, man, the doors are gonna open up for you. And the answer is no. It is a massive distraction. It is so incredible how much this has worked, right? Like, I am not of the belief that it has worked on the majority of people, but it has worked on the loud Karens and male Karens, or Kevins, or I think it's really messed up. We say male Karens anyway. It's worked on them, and those folks, we've seen video after video. Somehow the renaissance of aggrieved, angry white people in public started before the pandemic, and then the pandemic turbocharged it. But we're gonna continue to see, like, John, we cover these instances all the time. We're gonna see people flipping out in public places because they don't want to serve someone that they perceive is trans or non-gender conforming, right? I mean, straight up, and it's gonna happen, and the Supreme Court has given them a green light to do so.
Yeah, and going beyond that, like she also doesn't like the Q and the plus. What is your issue? Who broke you? Was it Tucker Carlson?
Yeah.
And by the way, so like I see, there's a lot of comments like Leafy says hairdressers are talkative so they can get tips, otherwise they might not chat at all. I get that, by the way. Being a service person, you do want to talk. I was a waiter and a bartender and a lot of different service things for a very long time. I don't begrudge you that. I also, though, when I was waiting tables for multiple years in multiple different restaurants, I didn't like decide, oh, you're sitting at my table and you can't leave, so I'm gonna force on you my most controversial political opinions. That's not what I did. Alex Schwartz says, I give you the money, you give me the donut. Yeah, look, here is what's going on. This is a person who wants to pitch that they are being victimized by the mere existence of other people. When what is really going on in all of these cases is, this is a person who sees repression. They see like communities being targeted and wants in on that. But they're not a legislator, they're not a pundit. So what power do they have to repress people? Whatever small little fief they have. And they will use that fief. Maybe all I have is my chair at the hair salon, But if I can just get people there, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's what we're seeing. That's why people, like with the cake or the wedding website, like literally making up that you're being like forced to do this so that you can proactively repress other people. It's not even like a victim complex. It's a totally fictional victim. It's based in literally nothing, a pure hypothetical.
Yep.
Anyway, I hate to see it. And the issue is that we expected this coming out of what the Supreme Court did. You're gonna see business owners tripping over themselves. Not only so that hopefully the Supreme Court will go even farther, but like there's like a 50% chance that Christine Geiger is gonna be featured on the 5 this week. Like they know that there is like media appearances to be made, money to be made, a podcast to be started just by being needlessly cruel. Anyway, I had a feeling I was gonna be in a very bad move coming out of the story because it's the sort of news that I hate more than anything else. So I decided we are gonna lighten things up. And we are gonna talk about something that is arguably the least consequential story that has ever been covered on the Damage Report, but I still think it's fun. I am gonna come off very petty during this. I want you to understand there's no ill will, and I will try to make that clear. But that said, let's move into our final story of the first hour. Is Mark Zuckerberg ripped right now? I asked that because everywhere I turn on the internet, I'm being told that he is ripped. And the photo that is provided as evidence of this is this photo. It is him working out with these MMA experts. These are combat art specialists. And look, Mark Zuckerberg is obviously a guy who prioritizes his fitness. He is obviously in good shape. I mean, look, he's a billionaire. He can have literally every meal he's ever eaten be cooked by like the greatest top chefs in the universe. And he can literally work out with MMA professionals. But is this an accurate depiction of reality? When you have headlines like Insider saying he's looking chiseled, Yahoo Sports and Business Insider saying he has a ripped physique, India Today reassuring its readers that this is not an AI generated image, NDTV saying he looks shredded. Oh, and he also has a ripped physique. The Big Lead says he's looking jacked. Marca says he looks ripped. And I feel like this is less an accurate reflection of what people think when they see this photo, and more, one, we give way too much credit to billionaires for doing stuff that other people do. But more importantly, they just want to stick it to Elon Musk this bad. That's all it is, Francesca. I am so horny for this billionaire. Are you seeing this, Elon Musk? Are you seeing this, how horny we are? What do you think?
Wow, he's not even that pasty. I love this so hard. First of all, I could have gone my whole life without seeing Mark Zuckerberg's titties, and now I have been robbed of that chance. And I've seen them, I cannot unsee them. I've seen his little weird pink nipples. I'm sorry, but there they are, there they were. I've seen his hair.
Nipple.
I don't know, there's something about they're very pink. Anyway, the point is, you gotta think of Elon Musk in this case. You gotta think that like, it's gotta sting a little bit that he looks really good. And yeah, like look, Bezos looks jacked too. Like a lot of billionaires, they realize they have the money to pay for personal trainers, all kinds of equipment, again, to eat incredibly balanced but delicious meals. And like, it's something they invest in. It's a fraction of all their money. Elon has just like red pill Jabba the Hutt type like energy and lo and behold body. And like, again, this is not to body shame. Don't get at me with the body shaming. But it's like, tomorrow morning, you're a billionaire. You'd probably try to invest in like someone to help you look like you're ideal and whatnot. But no, Elon would rather just do things for the lulz, and I don't. And it's funny because the left, the right are the ones who are so obsessed with fitness. Elon's freaking out because there was like a headline about, hey, why is the right really into fitness? And he got mad. I don't know, John. I also sense like a little jealousy, and I feel like the internet needs to see you.
That's not what this is about. And the photos are available. No, look, he's objectively in better shape than me. I don't doubt that literally at all. Of course, he is a billionaire and I'm not. But anyway, no, he's in great shape. And if us pretending to think that he has 4% body fat hurts Elon Musk, I'm willing to be a part of that solution. I'm just saying, I think that all too often praise comes too readily from the media to billionaires. I just think every once in a while, let's check it a little bit. That's all. Anyway, with that said, that's all the time we have for the first hour of the show, but there is much more coming up in the aftermath, including news from around the world and Meanwhile In and Barbie bigotry. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, John Iadarola. I'll see you soon.